Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Voice of Reason podcast. My name is Andy Van Beber. That's Travis Kirkendall up there. That's Sean Phillips driving home, being the responsible, right? You're being responsible, Sean, not looking at the phone and driving, right?
It's not that I want to run over the people of Los Angeles. It's that I think some of them just need it.
Well, I mean, you're in Los Angeles. You're not going anywhere fast. So, I mean, what's the big deal?
If I'm going to hit someone, it's going to be going 2 miles per hour. Stop and go. That's the benefit of it.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, you'd be fine.
Well,
I wish I
have like a 5-mile drive.
Made like
a 5-mile drive home, and I should be there by tomorrow morning. So it'll be nice.
Yikes.
Yeah.
You should have picked like a spooky intro song, like like one of those like
yes, I know,
fucking
right?
horror movie films or sounds or something. That would have been cool.
We've gotten the buzz this week on. I'm not gonna lie, we've gotten the buzz this week on the old podcast. All of our people who tune in is like, oh man. I might have to actually. When I posted it, one of my former students said, "Might actually have to watch this one live." I was like, "Well, come on,
it's Mars. I'm telling you, it's Mars."
Anyway, so how's your week been, fellas?
Week has been good. Been staying busy working, so I'm happy with that. That's all I have going on. Nothing much.
Yeah, we must say that it was a prime weekend. It was an awesome weekend. We had a blast. It was great seeing you guys. If you haven't looked at our Facebook page, our updated photo, I put the caption in there: 2 stallions with a fat guy. So, but Sean, I'm glad that Tony didn't drop a baby on the plane on the way home, or at the wedding, as far as that goes. I was sure that we were going to see water breakage and just a baby being delivered at the wedding. So
yeah, that wouldn't have been good for anybody, me included. But yes, no, baby is still up in the gut, so we are happy. Baby is healthy. We've got an ultrasound on Monday.
Good.
So no, baby is still chilling, still cooking. So no cause of concern there. We didn't get zapped out of the sky by any visitors. So we are all still good. Now I did get probed, but from who or why or what couldn't tell you.
I mean, you were around a bunch of your buddies there this weekend, so I mean, I don't know probably what happened at the Super 8, but I mean.
Yeah.
So
I've heard stories.
No, I tell you what, it was really good catching up with everybody, and I really enjoyed. Congratulations to Reed and Emma. Reed is a regular listener to our podcast, but I'm sure he's probably. I guess did they go on their honeymoon or did they waiting or?
I'm not sure. For some reason, I thought they were waiting, but I don't.
Yeah. So, but anyway, congratulations to them. Won't spend a lot of time talking about this, but thank you. A lot of people who follow me on Facebook, thank you for all your prayers and good thoughts for me on Monday. It was a really difficult day for me, but other than that, it's been a pretty smooth week. We're going to get my son back from camp tomorrow. Been without him this week, so had a lot of.
What kind of camp did you send him to?
He went to church camp. His last. The Rito leak is on. Raid says he's waiting 2 weeks. All right. Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. Leak. Bryson went to church camp. This is his last year to go into kids camp, and our church really puts on a top shelf camp, and they do a lot of cool stuff. And we've had a lot of quality daddy-daughter time, and we've Briley's had a lot of basketball this week and doing all that. And shout out to our friend Lauren Loggeman, who's the coach, who does a great job. And so, yeah, busy, 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 busy. So let's get into this lovely topic tonight. I'm trying to remember what I even called the show. Oh, hey, boys, we're putting on our tinfoil hats. It's UFO time. And
I'm going to start this off with saying that Alex Jones has been absolutely right about everything. You guys should go to his page.
No.
Start taking notes.
No.
He is the best source of information on the internet today.
Alex Jones.
Censored.
Oh, talk about your tinfoil hat, Judas Priest. That guy. I mean, he has a complete line of tinfoil hats. So
this is a side note, but I did I send you guys the videos of like they take like these Alex Jones rants and like they play like guitar metal riffs over
yes,
it?
Yes. I think I said
perfect.
Oh, dude, he is.
I'm obsessed with those videos. They're so great.
Some guy trolls Alex Jones so hard, but no, this has been something to me, and I'm not going to lie about this. I've always, I mean, since I was old enough to, get, read magazine articles or stuff, of course we didn't have the old World Wide Web back in the day, but when I still remember when Fox was in its infancy as a network, they would have different shows that would, of course they started with the X-Files. I mean, they had the X-Files. X-Files was a show that was on Fox. And I never watched the X-Files, but there were always these, they would have these like caught on tape shows and everything like that back in the day. And I was always intrigued by the UFO phenomena, and, and as a kid, I had a lot of who I am as a history teacher was from my history teacher that I had in middle school, who was this guy was the king of conspiracy theories. I mean, everything that I know about my basis for conspiracy theories comes from my middle school teacher, Ron Manning. And I mean, everything from UFOs to the JFK, he had us all, mind control crap. I mean, that's MK Ultra before MK Ultra was cool. So,
R.I.P. Ted Kaczynski.
Yep.
Greatest MK Ultra experiment of all time.
Yep. Who passed away this week, by the way. So
he did.
Yep. We'll talk about that at another time. But so let's go ahead and let's talk about the military whistleblower. There's a couple areas that we're going to look at here. We're first going to talk about this gentleman, David. I'm going to go on a limb and I'll probably butcher his last name, but David Grush, who is an Air Force veteran intelligence officer who claims that he has seen evidence of a secret crash retrieval program that was being run by the Air Force. He alleges that the U.S. has retrieved bodies from other species. He has made claims that, he's a former, this group that he was a part of was the National, I got the right here, it says the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. And he's making a lot of claims, and, he's not an old guy, 36-year-old. All of his credentials check out, so he's not a spoof. He's not a some kind of guy who's just trying to get attention. I mean, when you look at his credentials, but some of the stuff, and I'll read some of his quotes from his latest, he's been giving everybody interviews. I mean, everybody interviews. Here are just some of his quotes. He said, these are retrieving non-human origin technical vehicles, call it spacecrafts if you will, non-human exotic origin vehicles that have either landed or crashed. And he said that includes spacecraft from quite a number of other species. I thought it was particularly nuts, and I thought at first I was being deceived, and it was a ruse. People started to confide in me, approach me. I have plenty of senior former intelligence officers that came to me, many of which I knew most of my whole career, that confided in me that they were part of a program. They told me based on their oral testimony, and they provided me with documents and other proof that there was in fact, a program that the UAP task force, which is a task force that was created by Congress, was not read into. He says they've recovered non-human craft for decades. He recently filed this whistleblower complaint. I don't know when it was actually put in. He said, but we're definitely not alone. The data points quite empirically that we're not alone. And he says, it's not just spacecraft we recovered. He said, naturally, when you recover something, it's either landed or crashed. Sometimes you encounter dead pilots, believe it or not. As fantastical as it sounds, it's true. And he said it's also harder for people to wrap their minds around the concept of a crash object. And so he goes on, and he also says that this organization, this intelligence group, is trying to reverse engineer some of this equipment. So there's a lot at you. Let's chop some of that up and tell me what's your initial take on hearing what this guy has to say.
I'll start with the last thing you mentioned about the reverse engineering. I mean, that claim's been stated before by Bob Lazar. If you never heard the Bob Lazar story, I mean, so Bob Lazar was was he a scientist, engineer? Like, he was a big tech that they had recruited, and apparently this guy worked on like some part of Area 51, and he was part of a program that was trying to reverse engineer some of these technology. And he's on Rogan. There's tons of interviews. There's even a Netflix documentary you can watch on it. So I guess his story kind of ties into that one when we're talking about reverse engineering. As far as his claims, I don't know if I'm quite 50-50 on this, or I'm more 60-40 in his favor. I'm a little skeptical because, number one, it looked to me, unless I read this wrong, he's claiming things that he hasn't seen directly. He's claiming things that people came to him and told him about. That's, to my understanding, what I read.
In a court of law, that's called hearsay.
Right. So most of the stuff he's claimed and his evidence has been hearsay. Right off the bat, I'm skeptical about that. But at the same time, it's such a bold claim, and these claims aren't new.
No.
And I don't know. It just seems like what does he have to gain from something like that, other than, like, I guess, notoriety or views? Like, I can't really see how he could gain a lot from making those types of claims. If anything, I mean, he just lost a career giving up something like that. So this guy his background, he was part of some special reconnaissance. He was an officer in a reconnaissance unit of the Air Force, and he had a classified clearance. Forget his clearance, but basically, from what I know about clearances, like top secret clearances, you have the clearance and access to things, but there's also still need to know. And so I don't know, just because he has top secret clearance doesn't mean he has access to, like, all of these crazy UFO information that's out there. Because, I mean, top secret classification, that's still a very broad array of stuff. And that doesn't even necessarily mean like there's like that's not the top of the top, So I don't know. There's a lot of missing pieces to that puzzle and what he's saying. I mean, his claims aren't new. I mean, these are things that people have stated before. But as far as his credentials and his evidence, I'm skeptical.
Sean, what do you think?
No, I'm with Travis in a lot of this one. There's so much with need to know as far as like top secret or secret security clearances and things like that. The one thing that's really interesting, at least in my opinion, that's, the fact when it comes to a lot of these guys that are at higher levels of whether it's military or government agencies, right? Oftentimes, at least from what I read, their stories are typically run very, 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 very similar when they do kind of become whistleblowers. Not in the fact where it's like, oh, we were all at the same place, but it's a lot of the same protocol. It's a lot of the same information. And I mean, if you look at, when it's come to the history of UFOs and the history of like extraterrestrials and what we've seen, and this also goes back to where like there was actually this is a little bit off track, but there was a really good documentary came out a handful of years ago that was about mermaids, right? And the one thing that I found like really interesting about the thing was like there was like some found footage like stuff they put in there was absolute dog shit. It was faker than hell. But one thing I really liked about it was they talked about like why do people at a time when there was no communication in like China and North America or India or any of these places where there was no direct communication, why is it that the things that they saw, they reported the same exact thing? And I think that's what's like eerily, almost creepy in a sense of when it comes to UFOs, like UFOs throughout history, it hasn't changed. It hasn't changed since like ancient Egyptians have markings of like UFOs that they saw.
Right.
Like the figures that they see, these things stay consistent. And that actually stays with what people talk about today. Like when governments get their hands allegedly on these certain crafts. So yes, there's reverse engineering, but oftentimes these different governments, they're relaying the same information. Like this stuff's not new. We continue to see it over and over and over again. And it just makes to think like, what have some of these people actually seen versus what we're actually like, getting told. I've always thought that was pretty curious.
Well, and I look at what when I watched one of the it's this minor league, the people who had the exclusive rights first to his interview was this called News Nation, and take it for whatever you will. I mean, but this News Nation actually has reporters on it from old, their old throwbacks from other networks. But a lot of people who try to debunk this guy say the same thing, Sean. They're like, look, this isn't anything new. We've been hearing about UFOs for years. I mean, Area 51 has been the subject of, strangely enough, I was watching Independence Day tonight before the podcast, and
it's called homework.
So too,
exactly.
Afterwards, I'm watching Men in Black, but I had a college professor once who said science fiction is always 4 or 5 steps ahead of reality. And he was kind of saying it tongue in cheek, but at the same time, some stuff that just really you guys probably have never heard of. And no, Sean, it's not a porn star, but the comic strip called Dick Tracy that was
such a porn star.
Oh, I know.
I bet money. I bet money. If I did a quick search right now, I could find a Dick Tracy. All right.
I'm sure. Yeah, but Dick Tracy was a comic strip back in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. And
I wore a yellow coat, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know Dick Tracy.
And so they showed in the comic strip, he'd have a watch that he could look down at, and it was a telephone watch, and it had a camera on it. And so you're talking, 40 or 60, 70 years ago, and and then the idea of being able to some of the stuff that is proposed, for example, our survey this week. Let's just go with this. Let me start with this. Our survey this week, our poll this week was easy. Yes or no? Do you believe that there are such a thing as extraterrestrials? 100% of the voters who were polled said yes.
How many people do we have vote this week?
I did not 24 maybe. So,
pretty big.
You're not I have to believe. I believe that we are not alone in this. And I'm saying this from an evangelical Christian point of view, I still believe that God put everything into motion. I'm a creationist. I'm not an evolutionist. I'm not. Who's to say God did something here and then he went off on the other side of the known universe and did something else there? Since they put that I forgot the name of the telescope that NASA just launched. Was it last year that can take those high?
I believe it was last year. Yeah.
And so
the Hubble Bubble telescope.
Yeah, and so this telescope has found so there's a planet, and I want to say it is, I forgot how many light years away. It's a long way out there, but
is it called Pandora, and is it inhabited by
God, shut up.
Navi?
Shut up.
No, it's still too far away.
Still too far away, but it's 97% the size of the Earth. It has a lot of, and by doing certain, it's like with obviously they can't take atmospheric pressure or anything like that for it being so far away, but by doing different, what's the word I want to say, like emitting different kind of light and allowing certain different kinds of light in, they can see that it has probably kind of a very comparable atmosphere to what the Earth has, and saying, and so when I look at that and I say, okay, so there are, and you do those, and you've all seen those the videos that maybe National Geographic or somebody puts out, or Smithsonian, who will say, okay, here's our galaxy. Here's how big our galaxy looks. And then they stretch it out even further. And then here's this galaxy over here. And then here's this galaxy. And then, you just stretch, and it keeps on stretching. And, we haven't found the ends of the universe yet. We haven't found and for me to say that the odds of having just one planet to where we can say, okay, we're the only ones that are living on an inhabitable planet out of the trillions of planets that are out there.
The human mind can't conceptualize just how big that is.
Right.
We can't.
There's no easy. The odds are, to me, overwhelming that there's something that this guy is saying is true. Now, I want to bring this up, and you guys were the skeptics, so let's talk about the skeptics real quick.
Excuse me.
Bless you. And so this was a editorial in Forbes magazine. This was posted 2 days ago. And this guy, the author of this guy, I can't find his name, Danny DePlacidio. And this guy, he's a regular contributor. He says, this is science. He said, why is this science fiction? He said, let's start with the claim that these vehicles have crash landed on Earth. Whether one believes that said vehicles are extraterrestrial or interdimensional in origin, it's an extraordinarily leap of logic to assume that they are janky enough to crash, let alone with the frequency that Grush and other UFO enthusiasts have claimed. Star Wars, Star Trek, Futurama, Rick and Morty all frequently depict spaceships that crash land for the sake of narrative rather than logic. A crash forces the characters into a difficult situation, perhaps marooned on a hostile world or forced to engage with an alien inhabitants. It's widely used trope because it sparks drama. However, if one assumes that alien life is advanced enough to design vehicles capable of prolonged periods of space travel or interdimensional travel, then why are they crashing like drunk teenagers? And it's a very valid point. And when you look at
as M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong, states in the movie Signs, aliens' weakness is water.
Water,
so
yeah, and that's why they
clouds,
swing for the fences and all that other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then this other guy, who was it? There's this other guy, Mick West. He said, Grush has revealed that aliens are killing us and deactivating nukes. The government is killing people, and there's probably a treaty with malevolent aliens. And the government cleared all these claims for publication on TV because the claims are not secret; they are false.
I got one more skepticism to add to that. Just that interview that um this guy did. Like I think it was the CNN one or which one he came out. Like was that CNN interview or what interview was that?
The
You
one
remember
that
what
I
news
sent,
source?
the one that I sent you was from that News Nation.
Yeah, when they actually sit down and talk with the guy and he
Yeah,
like
yeah,
tells them
yeah,
everything.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that. So what did you think about the way he presented that? Like, I don't know,
I
just
was
the way
trying to
he
read him.
presented it.
To me,
Yeah,
he was
exactly.
very
The
difficult.
way he
Yeah, he was
very intentful,
he was
but like
he was hard to read. He was hard to
he
read.
was. It seemed to me like he was trying to push for something a little bit. Just that was just my take. It seemed like he was very intentful with what he was doing, whether that was to raise awareness for something that is this UFO thing. There's also a theory that we're part of one of the greatest psyops that the government and military have ever pulled off before, and we're just throwing off our adversaries with it. Who knows? I mean, but he seemed very, that's all I can say is he seemed very intentful with what he was doing and how he was delivering what he was saying, the way he was speaking, the way, like the part that really caught me was when he talked about like the pilots, when he was like, well, when it crashes, one would assume that there's a pilot, and sometimes there are. Like this, the way he said that part right there kind of threw me off a little bit
Mm-hmm.
and maybe a little skeptical. Um, but I don't know.
Well,
It was so it's always vague. Everything's always so damn vague. There's never specific like evidence, and if there is any specific evidence, we're always so limited in it. Like even this Vegas thing we're going to talk about, like the, we'll get into it, but God, there's like one big piece of evidence they needed, and it just mysteriously they couldn't find it.
well, and
You know,
one of the things that was said in the um, I sent another article to the boys that was from Wired, and I love Wired magazine. That's how I go back a ways with Wired. But Wired was saying that since the creation of this, since 2020, I can't get the exact number. Oh, here we go. Um, with the department mandated tracking secrets in the sky, sighting skyrocketed. Last August, the organization we mentioned earlier disclosed more than 500 reports of UAPs, which is the new term for UFOs. By this April, there were some 650 cases, and just last month, so this was published 2 days ago, and just last month, the Pentagon, which oversees this organization, hiked the number to roughly 800 mysterious flying objects this year. So, and the people, and I want to make this note too, the people who are pushing for this, and this, just for the record, this hearing has not happened yet. Okay. And when it does happen, I'm sure it's going to be a circus. But just to tell you who some of the people who are our good buddy Josh Hawley in the Senate is one who is wanting to have this. You also, who was the other guy? Matt, your friend Sean that you hate, Matt. It was Matt Getz. That
Sean,
he's
who's that
allowed
guy?
to.
Yeah.
How is Mallory Taylor Greene been pretty quiet about this?
Marjorie Taylor Greene hasn't said. I haven't said anything. The other guy, Tim Burchett. So Tim Burchett last week appeared on Steve Gannon, or Steve Bannon. You guys remember Steve Bannon, who is Trump's, wise guy. He's like, we have that he said that he has a commitment from both House Speaker Kevin McCarthy and House Oversight Committee people that we're going to hold a hearing on UAP. So it's the far righters who are really, and this is what blows my mind. The Wired article brought this up too. These are the same people who think that the people the people who did the January 6th riots are victims, and that that we need to look at everybody's server and all this other stuff and everything, and that they're going after Trump. So he's like, these are the same people who are this is they called this a conspiracy loving Congress. So I don't know. I mean, the video that I my go-to video that I keep on going back to is that one. I think Sean, you sent it to us. I think it was either last year or 2 years ago. It was from I'm actually looking at the photograph from it right now from Wired.com's their website, and it's the photo for it is actually a video of these F-18s following following what they say they call a UFO. So if those of you who are watching, this is the ship. This was the ship in question right here. This was from a video from an F-18, and this had been taken some time ago, but
I'd say the story that really has a lot like should really make people think is like one of the Air Force pilots that came out and was talking about how like they were following those like I don't know if they were like the lights or like the orbs. He was one of the guys on Rogan. I can't remember this guy's name, but he said like these things like obviously they traveled at a speed and they were able to do things that defy like physics and stuff, but also like it was smart enough that like it was able to go to like where the pilots were going. Like it knew where their waypoints were and everything, and was getting there like that, like just like waiting for them. And like the stuff he describes in like their flights and stuff is just crazy. And I mean, it's multiple pilots that have spoken out of stuff like that. So I take the pilots' accounts of what they've seen more seriously than this guy David, whatever his name is, claims about. I take more into consideration.
Well, let's say one more thing about this guy, and then we'll move on to the next story that kind of is more recent. And we kind of touched on this question, but we didn't really follow through with it. Is this guy glory hunting, or do you think what is he trying to gain something from this? Or is this guy? We kind of said we couldn't get a read on this guy. So do you think that anything's going to come from this, or where are you guys at on what this guy's going to amount to?
I think eventually they'll do a hearing. I mean, they're already calling for it. I think there will be a congressional hearing. I personally don't think there's going to be really anything mind-blowing or productive that comes out of it. And what's frustrating is if this all is a big conspiracy theory and it's just like a big psyop for whatever reason, it's unfortunate that we're wasting a lot of taxpayers' money and like attention on something so ridiculous.
Right.
That's if it's not true. But I don't know what. I'm sorry. Repeat your question again, because I had a point there.
What I'm just saying. What is this guy? What is this guy's motive? Is there a motive? Is there ulterior motive to this? Is this guy out for something?
So when I listened to him speak, it seemed like he was pushing for something. The way he said things, it seemed. He said it was hard to read him, and I claimed there was at one point that one spot he said that I was kind of suspicious. It almost seemed like an act to me, just almost. So I don't necessarily, and who knows? Maybe this is just like a shiny object that the government's like, "Hey, look at this," and then.
Well, yeah. Well,
I don't know. Maybe we're doing something crazy on the other side of the world.
Right. Exactly. That's the other thing that I look at when I see this is this.
You always got to look at everything else. Like what else is going on in the world right now?
Right. Don't pay attention to the man behind the curtain. Don't pay attention to the man behind the curtain.
We're talking tinfoil hatting. We should, take all of that into consideration.
I know. Shauna, did you have anything else that you wanted to say about this guy before we move on to the next one?
Not specifically. I mean, the thing with guys that really kind of break into the UFO realm of things, like many of them that come before. I don't know if maybe they think it is like this cash grab, but oftentimes you don't really hear about too many of these ufologists making this giant payday or anything like that. Like they're usually kind of considered the laughingstock of the science community. So I maybe, but in the same token, like Travis said earlier, what does this guy really have to lose? like like I think that there could be some genuine notes to his claims.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The other story comes to us from, of all places, Las Vegas. And the timing of this, I think, is quite, being that this happened back on April the 30th, and it's just now catching traction, kind of along the same timeline as this report being released. But this family in I don't know what their name is, but they basically, this Las Vegas family called 911 after claiming they saw two aliens crash in their backyard. And a Las Vegas family created late April when they said they saw an object fall from the sky in their backyard, containing what they claimed were two large aliens with shiny eyes. And they've released the body cam of the cop who showed up on the scene. And this guy was, he was treating them seriously. He was, partially because on this same, I don't know if it's the same cop's body cam, but so 8 minutes earlier on another, I don't know if it was this cop's body cam or another cop's body cam, you see this blue object, which is, this video's went viral on the internet. You can look it up, and it's this blue object that is going across, the back part of the screen. You can see it, and it goes across the horizon and hits. And then the neighbor who, in the same neighborhood where these people called the police from, their Ring door cam, and you can go see this, the Ring door cam catches the you don't see the object, but you see the light. And I guess it's the neighbors who are across the street. You get the light, and then you hear the boom, the hit. And so when the cop arrives and he interviews the family, they say they saw a big creature that was long, 10 feet tall, and he said 100% not human. And this is an 18-year-old young man who he's actually released he started a YouTube channel, and he's, this guy, this kid's not, he's, if you watch his video, he's not tech savvy, so he's not like, oh, I'm out there trying to get, but it's definitely, I don't know. It's,
Here's so I guess I'll start here.
Okay.
Before we get into what the actual story is. So this was from the NY Post when they were talking about this incident. And this is an interesting point that one of the guys they interviewed made. So after it went, was this an investigator or who was this guy? Doug. He's an ex-cop that apparently was looking into this.
Right. Yep.
So apparently the second time he interviewed the family, when he came back, he noticed that there was cameras on top of the people's house.
Yep.
And it's like a camera, and it looks like there's some type of antenna module on it too.
He took pictures. I saw the pictures of it too.
Which I might know what that is actually, but I don't know for sure. Anyway, so there's this camera that it's like on the house, and the family's like, yeah, the police said that installed it just in case UFO nuts come knocking on our door or harass us or whatever like that. But this guy made a really good point with that and saying it doesn't make sense because, and I'll quote it here in the article here. The mother told me they came out there and they put up cameras supposedly to protect the family from people coming to bother them about the UFO. And this guy claims, but I can tell you right now, cops don't come out and put up expensive video equipment like that. And they certainly wouldn't do it for somebody calling in a report about a UFO.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there is a lot of truth to that statement.
Yeah.
There's so many instances where like police call or report for something, nothing like this, like something, say, let's say an incident like this. Let's say you have a married couple and the husband's beating the wife. and it's been called numerous times. She gets a restraining order. The husband has to leave. Are the police installing
cameras to protect? Yeah.
I don't know many instances where that actually happens. So the fact that they're doing it for something like this kind of surprises me. And that's an interesting observation that guy made. And I don't know really what to make of that. Do you have the footage of, or at least do you have the audio of the call, the 911 call?
Yes. Give me a second. Keep.
I will say with that, like, if you can pull it up, that'd be cool. If not, people can look it up. I mean,
yeah.
the guy that calls 911, he doesn't. I mean, one, he sounds sober. I mean, he does.
Yeah, he's not
He
high.
doesn't sound
Right.
intoxicated or like under the influence of anything. He sounds very sober and he sounds scared. Um, just it was very rushed in what he was saying and how he was saying it. Like he seemed a little freaked out.
Yeah.
It didn't seem like it was really a set up call or any means. And there is a footage of obviously you talked. There's footage of the actual downing or whatever that the object was flying in the sky.
I can bring that
flare.
up. Let me.
And they claimed that like you could feel like the force. So like I think one of the footages shows that, and like you can hear the audio of like an explosion, like when it lands, right?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you can hear the audio in it. And they said like you could feel like the force from the impact.
Yeah.
But what really, well, I guess I'll just go straight to it. What really pissed me off and bothered me about this report, apparently these people, I don't know if it was the people or the neighborhood, there was cameras of like the backyard and like I think they had cameras in the backyard or some kind of surveillance cameras that could have seen what they claimed to have seen. But supposedly at the time that this happened, the cameras were not operational. And that right there, that is like, on one hand, it's like, okay, you're claiming we're at the same situation where we don't have clear evidence of what these things were. They gave descriptions, but ironically, the cameras that they supposedly had weren't operational at that moment.
Yeah.
There's always something like that in these stories. Like it doesn't make sense. Why weren't the cameras? Yeah, well, exactly. But like this story specifically, why weren't those cameras operational? Apparently, I think if I read this correctly, maybe
Police
check
in
me
Las
on
Vegas
this.
found themselves in the
I thought
middle.
they had said that the cameras were operational before and after before the event, but all of a sudden when the event happened, they weren't operational anymore. I thought I read that. Don't quote me on that, but it blows my mind that it seems like that always happens with these stories. Like the thing that can get you the evidence you need is like always, for whatever reason or excuse or another, it's never there. But the officer also said like he had no reason like to believe that the people were lying. Like he thinks they saw something, whatever it is. They saw something that spooked them, and their description is pretty wild.
Yeah, I mean, so what they're saying, about 10 foot tall and
okay, what's going on?
Okay, here we go. I don't know if you guys will be able to hear it, but let me.
It's fine. I've already seen it.
Okay, let me get the screen set up here to where it. So this is okay. I'll just play this raw. We'll see what we get here.
Okay, what's going on over there?
Okay, lady. Me, my dad, and my brother, we're working on a truck in our backyard, and we have a big lot outside, right? Correct?
Okay.
We were working, and we just see in a corner of our eye something fall down from the sky, and it was with light, and when it hit down, it was like a big impact, and we felt it. We felt like an energy, and then we hear like a lot of footsteps near us, and then we have a big equipment, and we see, and there's like an 8-foot person beside it, and another one's inside, and it has big eyes and it's looking at us, and it's still there.
Okay, where is this on your property?
In my backyard. I swear to God, this is not a joke. This is actually, we're terrified of it.
So there's 2 people or 2 subjects that are in your backyard?
Correct, and they're very large. They're like 8 foot, 9 feet, 10 foot. I don't know. They look like aliens to us. Big eyes. They have big eyes, like I can't explain it. And big mouth. They're shiny eyes, and they're not human. They're 100% they're not human.
So I don't know if you guys were able to hear that or not or anything, but like Travis said, for those who are listening, or who watched it live there, this kid was totally. I mean, he just like, we're working on we're working on our truck in our garage. He said, I'm serious. He said, this isn't a prank. We said we just see in the corner of our eye something fall down from the sky with lights. It hit. There was a big impact, and we felt like an energy. We heard a lot of footsteps near us, and then we have like a big equipment, and we see there's like an 8-foot person beside it, and another person inside. They have big eyes. It's looking at us, and they're very large. They're like 8 foot, 9 foot, 10 foot. And he said they're not human. 100%, they're not human. And he said, this is no BS. This isn't a joke. And you see the pictures from their backyard, and there's this perfect circle that's in the backyard.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, the picture.
So
but that's so frustrating. I was like, but in the moment, the cameras just didn't catch
anything.
The thing. Yeah,
anything.
And maybe.
So
head on. Maybe that's the alien technology blocking the signal. But it's also, I know Sean's probably gonna want to chime in, and just let me ask this question: like, if it's not true, if UFOs are not real and this is all a hoax, why? I would think, I was kind of mixed at first because, like, well, the government wants to keep vagueness because, if it's true that these UFOs are false, and say a foreign adversary has technology that we really don't understand. I personally, now that I think about it, I think that would be a much less scarier scenario versus, hey, these are extraterrestrials from somewhere we have no idea where, and no one from Earth has this technology. Why the vagueness? Why not come out and say it? Like, if it wasn't UFOs, I feel like that would be the better thing to. I don't understand why you wouldn't just clarify that, because I think society handles that information much better than, hey, this is extraterrestrials.
Well, before Sean chimes in, I just want to. So I've had, of course, my wife. We've had my wife on the show before, and she investigates the holy hell out of everything. And she was like, think about this. And she made a very interesting point tonight. She's like, what if the government did pull back the veil? How much could the human race actually handle?
Exactly.
If they actually pulled back the veil and they said, okay, you want it? Okay, here you go. Here's yes, we have an Area 51. Here it is. Here's what we have. Crash landed back in the 60s, and this is this, and here's the bodies, and here. But then, you get people like this. This kid literally has nothing to gain. This kid, I don't know if he's been interviewed. I haven't seen him come up. I
haven't seen a picture of them at all, of the family.
I mean, all the picture I've seen is from his YouTube channel. He hasn't caught a lot of subscribers to his channel, but he's.
Oh, I see now. Okay.
And this kid is, he's not a glory. He's just saying, look, I'm just an 18-year-old kid working with my brother on a truck in our garage, and this happened. I'm calling the cops. I'm calling you, the officials, to please come and investigate this. And he had a strange effect on us. And then the cop comes there, and he's like, okay, show me everything. And the cop goes in and he investigates. He takes statements, and they treat this like it's a real event. And then you get this body cam footage of this blue object. You get the Ring door cam from across the street. You have the cops putting up, like you said, Travis, cameras across the street. Cameras. Why? Is this the FBI, or is this the, until, oops, we missed this one, it slipped through, so now we're going to watch these people, or what? Sean?
I don't know.
Sean, what are your thoughts on this one?
So this one was an interesting one because, like, the initial kind of evidence and videos that came out were super interesting. Travis, you were right. Like, the police actually getting involved, actually filing reports, actually doing a lot of stuff that they just normally don't do with these kind of things, made it very interesting. There were a bunch of different eyewitness accounts. And then, you even had the police officer at the end of the video, was joking around with the guy, but almost was like legit, like, if you see any more 9-foot tall beasts in your backyard, you give us a call. And then the other one's like, yeah, if you see any 9-foot beast, don't call us because like you're on your own. It's kind of joking around. But here's how I kind of look at this one. I think, and I'll be completely honest with you, because of everything that kind of continued to come out after the initial video of what was the alleged UFO, right? So I think the alleged UFO could have been something, could have been nothing. I think it was the follow-up with the, 8-foot beast in our backyard and the Ring cameras, conveniently not working at that time, kind of made it where they're like, maybe we can get some clicks. Like there's this big thing that everyone in Vegas just saw, and maybe we can, get something out of it. Let's get it on TikTok. Let's get some views. But in the same token, you never know. Tinfoil hat. Maybe the reason why we don't have any good, footage or photo imagery or video footage is because maybe these, extraterrestrials are so much more than just, crashing spaceships. They could be quite literally spaceships rippling through time, and crashing through Earth is them moving at light speed through inner dimensions, and they accidentally just skip the vortex.
Oh my God, yes, I love it.
Photos and videos, they can't capture those images as good as like regular, cameras and stuff can it. Or maybe, like they said, if UFOs are coming to Earth, if they're flying here and, maybe they're not ready to be seen, maybe they, push out that 5G. They push out the 5G and it fries the cameras and it makes all the frogs gay. I think there's, like we said, extraterrestrials, if they are making it to Earth, it is abundantly clear that they are a lot more advanced than us. Let me put it into perspective about, so I know I made a joke about Avatar earlier, but I was rewatching the series recently, right? And there was something about the first one that actually made me laugh. Okay. Put this into perspective. This is just the human narrative of not really fucking understanding what space travel really means and what level of advanced technology you have to get to travel to these other planets. But get this, okay? Think of this for a second. In the movie Avatar, okay, the first one, Jake Sully, before he becomes one with his avatar, do you guys remember what his character was like at the beginning of the movie?
He was skeptical, wasn't he?
Well, no, but physically, what was wrong with him?
Paralyzed.
He was paralyzed.
He was paralyzed. So and then his excuse for taking the job on Pandora was that he was paralyzed and couldn't afford health care to get his legs fixed. Yet, they flew him across the universe to then get into a artificial blue alien body that wasn't made with his DNA, but his twin brother's DNA. So you mean to tell me that in how many hundreds of years that America, by God damn it, will not give a vet his legs back because it's too expensive, but they will fly him across the universe.
I never even thought about that.
I never put all that together.
Oh my God.
Told you what they say about Avatar.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, the VA is still dicking people around. So
300. Take that, he said. My gosh.
I think that when we I think there's a couple of really good movies about extraterrestrials and just if any of you guys, of our listeners, if you haven't seen the movie Arrival, I recommend checking that movie out. It's a very good movie about how extraterrestrials are not so much
their version of time is much more like it's way different than what our version of time and how like things aren't linear for them. They see in the future and they see like it's a very weird thing. It's a neat concept. And then same with another one's like Interstellar. That's another good one that legitimate like goes into different levels of space. Time is different because if you think about it, we as humans, we dictate what time is for us based off of our sun and our gravity and our rotation of our Earth versus, there's other planets and other universes and other galaxies that just have a completely different distorted view of what time is. There's
another movie too, if I can interject real quick, Sean. And this is back from the 90s. It was a movie with Jodie Foster and Matthew McConaughey called Contact. And it's...
Oh, another great movie.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a long movie, but I mean, it just what you just said just puts that into perspective. I mean, because it's, she goes through what's a space travel thing, and what appears to be 10 seconds of falling through a loop is, 17 hours, So like you said, we don't, again, I don't think our minds can truly wrap around.
Well, it's the same thought of like, if you asked a person, okay, to draw you a picture of what $1 trillion in cash look like, I don't think anyone on Earth could do it accurately because there's no like, we cannot wrap our heads around that kind of figure. Like we can't wrap around what that number is. So it's the same thing when we talk about planets in the universe. Like the potential is literally untapped. We have scientists that can't give you the answer because scientists don't even know how many galaxies are in our universe. And if you try to explain to someone exactly how large, the Milky Way galaxy is, they truly can't grasp what that entails. And so I don't know. I just think that V, I'm with you. I'm in the same token of, I think that God is pretty powerful and can kind of do whatever the heck he wants. So I think, the ability to be like, I can create here, I can create here, I can create here. And, for all we know, interdimensional travel could just be, what's behind the curtain that, something that's much bigger than us created. Like we legitimately have no idea, or at least three morons like us have no fucking clue.
Right, we're just putting on the tinfoil hats and trying. Yeah,
there's others out there that do or think that they do, and who knows? But again, I think that maybe there's always a good chance that maybe extraterrestrials they were here during the times of the Egyptians, they were here during the time of the Aztecs and the Mayans. And, they were in Peru. And that's why we have things like the pyramid. And we have these weird statues and drawings of these different creatures. And maybe they were here and they said, you know what? Humanity's just not advanced enough yet for us. We'll be back in we'll be back in another millennia. We'll be back in another 10,000. We'll be back in another million years to see where humanity is.
And let me touch just on that, just that historical aspect, just real briefly. We're almost out of time here. But you mentioned, okay, so let's look at those three cultures real quick, okay? Egyptians, Mayans, Aztecs, okay? One of those is two of those civilizations are relatively near each other. The other one is on the other side of the planet, okay? And at its peak, okay, about roughly 3,000, maybe not even that, maybe about 1,500 years, 1,600 years separating, the Egyptian at its peak of the Middle Kingdom to Aztec times. All right. You look at the similarities. We say, well, the Egyptians had the perfect pyramids, whereas the Mayan, there was more steps and everything. Yeah, same design. Okay, same kind of science. When you look at the science that they had, the medical technology that they had, of how they were, some of the surgeries and how the knowledge of the human body that they had, and I mean, I could do an entire show just on all the similarities of those people and how they, how they were accurately able to set up calendars and no outside help. Where'd they get the design from? Why do they have a similar design? Why do they have, and that's one of the things that I've always tried to wrap my minds around too, and I mean, History Channel has a regular program called Ancient Aliens that looks at that very thing. So
the greatest show of all time is what you meant to call it.
So, gentlemen, I've enjoyed putting on the tinfoil hat. That it's easier to fit on top of my head with no hair on it and everything, but what can I say?
This is a topic we go on and on about. There's so much so many stories,
Well, we quickly flew through that hour. But I do want to mention, I would love, and this is something that you guys can share. You can also do. We are wanting to, at least I am. I've kind of tossed around this with the guys. I would love for us to be able to start streaming onto TikTok to even broaden our audience even more. With TikTok the way it is, you have to have 1,000 followers. On my channel, I have 560 followers. On our Voice of Reason TikTok, we have close to 100 followers. If you could do us a favor, if you're a TikToker, you casually, or just share it with your friends, you don't even have to follow us, but go to our TikTok page. You see it scrolling across the bottom there. We're at VOR Podcast 2021. Follow us on TikTok. We would love to start being able to do live broadcasts on TikTok to grow our audience even more. I would even say that we could probably throw a good to whoever our 1,000th follower is. We could throw a good deal of merch at you, and we're gonna near future get the old merch store up and running again. But thank you for joining us tonight. We wanted to do all of it. We kind of talked about that. Travis and I were talking about that at the wedding. Man, why can we never get a show where we're all three in the same room at the same time, man?
It works out.
Yeah. So anyway, any final thoughts, Captain? We were glad you were able to join us tonight, even though it was.
Yeah, I'm glad we had all three of us.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. This was a fun one. V, I'll let you kind of sign them off just because I don't want to run over Tiger Woods on accident. So,
well, we want to thank everybody for joining us. Again, be a friend, tell a friend, share. Please, 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 please join one of our various platforms, especially on the old TikTok. Get us out there so we can even get to a wider audience. We are having a lot of new followers follow us every day. So please continue to share. We thank you for everything that you do for us. Have a great week, and we will see you next time on The Voice of Reason.